Unfortunately, low riding has always taken that. Well, for many years, it's taken that we're a bunch of gangbangers and no good
Yeah.
hoodlums.
Yeah.
They're starting to realize that's really not the case. I mean, we can't. The amount of money that goes into these lowriders. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I mean, paint jobs costing 30, 40, 50 grand. It's like, who's gonna act like a fool if you got a car that you can have, if you damage that paint, you're going to be in paint prison for 10 years, spending another 30, 40, 50 grand. It's like,
I don't think I think everybody realizes it now that the stereotype, most of it's gone away. It's still it'll always be there for some people because they're either gonna be jealous or they're racist, if you want to call it. All right, everybody. Elegance, flair, and grace. That defines the Style Car Club. I'm Joe Ray, and you are on the Wired Down podcast show. Today's featured guest is their president, Danny Ayala. Danny, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
Long time coming, like your club, 1979, right?
Yeah, 79. I was going through some pictures for this interview, and so you pull them out, and they're stuck in the photo album, and they're black and whites, and it's pretty amazing how long we've been around, the things that we've gone through.
We mention decades every now and then. You know, that's an easy word to say, but that's 10 years. 5 years is a long time. 1 year is too.
Yeah.
When you're having a good time, man, when you're building a car club from scratch all the way up to where it is now, I mean, there's only so many things, devotion, commitment, but all the above. You picked out a great name. Before we even get going here and we find out about your presidency, how you run the club, the traditions and everything, how did the club get started?
Well, there was a group of guys that were in Elite, and Elite at the time was focusing more on car shows. And there was a group of guys that wanted to cruise and not just do shows. So those guys decided I guess there was an effort to only do car shows and go full custom and go after Joe Ray and Dress to Kill and all that. So the group of guys decided, no, we want to be more in the streets, and those guys started Style. So at the time, there was a pretty good amount of clubs. I remember when I got in, there was probably like 40 guys in the club. Unfortunately, when you get a club that size or bigger, they start to become groups, cliques inside, and then this little group here and that little group there, and then it's a lot of disruption in the club. It's not family anymore when that starts happening. So the president at the time wasn't stepping up and changing it, So unfortunately, that's one of the things that I wanted to change when I took over finally. But yeah, that's basically what happened in the club. It started off from another club.
You were born and raised in that Pomona area.
Yeah. So I was born in 1965 and pretty much lived my whole life in Pomona until I got married in the 80s, late 80s. But yeah, my parents still live there. And but I grew up in that culture of cruising Hope Boulevard and going to the old Sears and packing out the whole Sears parking lot. And people from LA used to come out, and until the city shut it down, they put up no cruising signs and kind of killed it for us. Even in front of the park that we used to park in front of, they put no parking signs. It was so cool. We would get on Holt Boulevard. We'd all have our cars out front of the park, and it was kind of a thing, so everybody could see your rides, and used to be Take Cadillac across the street, and then people would come, to buy cars, and they'd see our cars, and people would be taking pictures back then. I remember one time we were there, and some guy was like, ooh, taking pictures, and he crashed into a brand new Cadillac across the street. It was a mess. But after they put the no parking signs, it pretty much killed that whole area for low riding anyway.
So you're born in 65. Um, Even at later on 10, 12 years old, just before you're getting on, what was your influence? What was low riding like out there in the Pomona area?
Well, so my dad, a lot of people don't know this, but when I was born in 65, that was right around the time he started putting hydraulics in cars. In fact, I got a bunch of pictures of him, black and whites. He saw the Corvette and that had the
Ronald Gary's
hydraulics.
vet?
Rodney's,
Yeah.
yeah, Corvette. So he just came home one day and started getting aircraft stuff, and he started putting hydraulics in cars. He's always been very crafty, and so I grew up with my dad putting hydraulics in cars. My first word was hydraulics,
Yeah.
not mom and dad.
Yeah.
And my mom likes to tease me about that, but so I grew up in the culture of low riding. And it was multi though, even back then, because he said a lot of the people that he put hydraulics in cars for were hot rodders back in the day, from Orange County, because he would charge a lot of money. It was expensive, and guys from the neighborhood, they couldn't really afford it. They were with the sandbags and cutting coils,
Parking
mostly
blocks. Yeah.
blocks, yeah, and stuff like that. So, um, eventually, people from the neighborhood started, coming to get hydraulics, and there was people from all over that would come, and every weekend there'd be people playing music really loud and oil everywhere, and people
Yeah.
put, wanting to get their cars ready for Saturday night, and um, it was an experience because I got to see. My dad was a craftsman, so I got to see him build something out of nothing, because nowadays you can buy a hydraulic setup and everything's pretty much just plug and play.
Yeah.
Back then, he had to make everything,
Trial and error.
Yeah, so yeah, it was all figuring everything out, and uh, putting cars, hydraulics in cars that don't have A-arms,
Was
and
that his
stuff like
main
that.
business at the time?
No, so he actually worked in construction,
Oh,
and he
okay.
did this on the side, and he'd come home and
Extra
on the
money and a
weekends.
hobby, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the way I grew up. My whole life pretty much has been. It's
So
been
you
that.
didn't have to go out there and see things; they came to you,
They came
especially
to
on
me.
weekends
Right.
with
Yeah.
your dad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So hydraulics in the mid '60s, then.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, by the time I was already, little kid, he was in full swing and putting hydraulics in cars.
Do you remember any of the car clubs back then, or any cars that stood out that you saw in that area?
No, just the cars themselves, really. Uh, I don't remember there being a lot of, or I don't remember clubs. I just remember individuals coming, individual people coming. Um, they were all great people, and they were from all different walks of life. It was no, you'd figure, they were Latinos only, but it wasn't really. It was like a little bit of everybody, and it was pretty cool. And everybody would hang out and enjoy each other's company, and they'd be at the house, and it was it was fun.
You have Route 66 not too far from there. So when you mentioned hot rods,
Yeah, right, right. Um,
that was a huge boulevard by itself, actually.
yeah, actually, yeah, it really was. But like I said, there was a lot of. He would tell me stories about cars from Orange County, surfer guy, hot rodder guys, that wanted their cars low, but they wanted to be able to pick them back up again. And my dad was installing hydraulics in their cars, hot rodders.
Yeah, I think the Ron and Gary story, or where Bill Hines,
Yeah,
there's just a lot of guys out there that, who's to know who eventually started the first hydraulic system, got one into their cars, but they like to cruise around. Cops would check you out
right.
before they even took a look at you, and they pick it back up
Mm-hmm.
stock again, and that was the reason, or to climb up a driveway just to pick it up and all that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it was nice to drive low, just like we do now. And then just basically, my car anymore is to pick it up for ground clearance mostly. I like driving low and um, to be able to pick it up to clear, to be able to get in stuff. But When I was young, it was all about hopping, in the trunk every weekend, and
Yeah.
spending all that money and oil. Even now, too old for that stuff now. Just like
Your
pick it up and
carpet
pick
just
it like,
ruined all the way in the house to the back kitchen with all the oil stains. But what is your dad? I mean, your dad's active, 59. What does he think of hydraulics, how the industry, the hobby, how it all took off and where it's at today? I know it's all plug and play,
yeah,
but you know, these guys all have a shortcut to it today, right? Back then,
yeah,
you had to take the high road, left, right, and
yeah,
U turns, and you had to start all over, blowing tops on cylinders. There was a lot of stuff going on. I
yeah,
can remember, but how
yeah.
does he look at it today? I mean, he's sort of he's a pioneer when it comes to
Yeah,
hydraulics.
he really is. Even on his car that he had when I was a kid, everybody ran Supremes and Kragers and everything, and he was
Mm,
running Skylarks, which are wire wheels,
right.
and nobody else was running wire wheels on their cars. And he even tried to make some reverse wire wheels, and he ran out of money. And unfortunately, the machinist had the rims and all that stuff that he couldn't afford to chrome them. He ran out of money. Who knows whatever happened to those? But yeah, like I said, he was always kind of like one of those guys. Um, but yeah, he loves lowriding. I mean, it's in his blood.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's been doing it. He's 80 years old now, and he's still building cars. He's got a '47 Cadillac that he's going to be busting out with,
Yeah.
a convertible. And
Oh, I know, right?
Daniel Creation just painted it. It's like a brandy wine flaked out, and
Oh man,
California Postery did it, and I mean, thing's gonna be
that's gotta
super
be
nice.
unreal. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's he loves the low riding. I do say I know a lot of people are going to hate this because there's these purists out there that think only hydraulics is the only way to go.
Hmm.
Um, but even back in the day when he was installing hydraulics, before that it was air shocks that were adjustable, and people would hook them up to their air conditioning,
Yeah.
and they would put air
Exactly. Yeah.
compressors, and in the cars they would raise the cars up with air shocks, so
That was a big fad
it
back
was a
then.
big thing before
Have air shocks in
hydraulics.
the back.
Yeah,
It's like,
so that was
really?
before
Wow.
hydraulics.
Let's
So,
see it.
and everybody's like, well, you got to have juice. And it's like, juice has its place, hydraulics have their place. But to me, if a car lays on the ground and he can pick it up and drive it, that's a lowrider, But, there's going to be a controversy on that as long as, I guess, lowriding exists.
We needed 520s. I think the 520 only exists because we had to figure out a way to lower the car anyways, right?
Right,
So the
right.
smaller the tires, the lower
The
the
lower
car
you could
got.
get, right?
Yeah, you're always going to get the traditionalists that are
Yeah.
going to want hydraulics,
Yeah.
and and then there's the guys out there that have airbags. I like airbags. The popularity about them that I like is that, and I'm throwing this back at everybody, but back in the day, I would never put hydraulics on my car. I don't want to be a low rider. And then so they would go out there and slam trucks and slam hot rods, maybe 3-4 inches off the floor.
Hmm.
Then they'd slam them to the floor, and it's like it doesn't make sense to me. What are you doing? You put airbags, but now you're slammed on the floor like low riders.
Right.
Oh, but you guys have hydraulics. And what's the difference? It's on the floor, right?
Right.
That's the point you're making.
Yeah.
And I've always said that too. I'm a fan of both. They have their goods and bads.
Hmm.
Like I've said before, they both leak. But the technology today is just unreal. And guys, with special cars, rags, 61s like you have, your dad with his 59, you don't want to devalue those kind of cars because those lowriders, certain lowriders, damn,
Right.
their investments, they're expensive.
Yeah. You have a '59 that's almost 300,000 nowadays.
Yeah, you can't put hydraulics on it, right?
Some guys do, and they don't care. My dad, he decided to go with air ride on his car. Everything's chromed and polished and hard lined.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's a nice setup.
but he likes the air ride system because he doesn't have to charge batteries, and then he's not getting full of oil when he's trying to fix it anymore. And he's 80 years old, so
Yeah,
he doesn't want
yeah.
to do that. He just wants
Least
to,
aggravation is what it
right.
is.
He just wants to lay the car down and look pretty and pick it up and drive it, and that's where that comes in. I have two cars. I have my 61, which thank you for putting my picture up there. I appreciate that.
I've been a
Um,
fan of that car for a long time. Man. That
um,
purple.
that one has hydraulics, a setup I put in it. I bought Hopples did a lot of work as far as the frame, and I bought all the parts from him back in 2005, I think it was when I put that system in there. But I did all the hardline. I set it all up, welded everything in, wired it up and all. But um, so I have that car with hydraulics, but it's mainly a show car. It comes up and down, but I have shocks in the front and the back, so it rides like a stock car because I don't want any bouncing. So and then I have a '57 Bel Air convertible that I've had for a few years, and it's pretty much an original car with wheels, and I four linked the back and bagged it, So now I got trunk space. I can put my ice chest in there, it's easy up, and so
You
it's just like
mentioned you have shocks in the front and shocks in the back. It's
Yep.
stability, so that car doesn't.
It won't hop because the main function of a shock is to stop you from bouncing,
Right,
right?
right.
So I made brackets and
Yeah, side brackets. You just put my Eldorado has that.
right next to the
It
frame.
locks up pretty quick. I don't know if it's going to come off the ground,
Yeah.
but I mean, you stabilize your ride. I mean,
Mhm.
when it comes to comfort, you don't want to be all over the place, and then
No.
you're going down the road and you got to put up with that stuff all the time. I've said that. And if you're on the freeway and you're bouncing around,
Yeah.
you see other cars drive by and the kids are all just laughing
Right.
at you. It's like, and that helps. But I mean, in for hopping, you can't do that. If you're
You can't.
you want to go out there and hop, no. But
Yeah.
everybody go, where are you going to put the shocks at? And you just build a bracket on the side
Yeah.
of the A-arm and drop that shock right there. And it's day and night the ride you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And the performance, it locks up. You
Yeah,
just got to
so-
measure out your stroke. It locks
Yeah,
up
my
quick and-
front end locks up the same as anybody
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
It lays on the ground like anybody else. You just have to put the right shock in there and the bracket in the right place to be able to get your travel. In the back, of course, I have shocks in the back. And it's easy to do because you're in the same place as stock. And
Hey, so you joined Style Car Club. How long did it take before you became president?
so I joined Style Car Club in '82. I was like 17 years old, and I had a job, and then had me a little car, and ended up buying me a '78 T-Bird because my dad was hanging around you guys back in the '70s, late '70s, and I used to go to Quiet Canyon and over there and see you
Yeah.
guys, and I think would you guys have like 40 Thunderbirds back then or
At one
something
time,
like?
it looked like a dealership.
It looked like a
Everybody
Thunderbird.
traded in their '76 Caprices for Thunderbirds. It's
It was a
crazy.
whole block
Yeah,
full of
yeah,
Thunderbirds. It was
yeah,
crazy.
nuts.
So I wanted a Thunderbird, and so when I finally got a chance, I bought one, and I got into the club with that, and I was activity chairman for a while, and then the club started falling apart late '80s. And so there was kind of a little of a gap for a few years, and I decided, you know what? I started it up, and I became president myself, and started recruiting. And the former president, he gave me plaques, and he encouraged me, and
Foundry, still from the Foundry.
they were from the Foundry. Yeah,
still
they
do
were the
that?
brass.
Yeah.
I think when I ran out of the brass ones
Mhm.
in like mid 2000s, I started getting them laser cut because the foundries I couldn't get them. I didn't know where to go to get them, and so we started getting them laser cut. I have a few of them. I have one that's a plug that some people have been asking because they want me to make some of those again, the OG ones. So who knows? I might start making them again because I think I found somebody that would do it.
Oh, they're in your area.
Yeah, there was a place
They
called The
can
Rock.
build it, the mold, they'll do everything. There's
Oh.
3 places you have to go to.
Well, we'll have to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll put them up on CAD. They'll get them almost perfected.
yeah, it's cool.
But so you were president back then, like you were saying, right? But you come and go. You're gone for a little while and then you come back. Why?
So,
I know why, but I want them to know why.
yeah. Um, so early 90s, I started it back up again, and I was president for 16 years. And, I was, I was green at doing it. I was still young, um, learning how to organize and talk to people. Um, and then our clubs kind of started getting big again, and the attitudes started coming again, different groups, and then, um, early 2000, I got into an accident. A big rig hit me at work and crushed my leg, my feet, and I was going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I went through a major reconstructive surgery, and then so a lot of the guys were there for me, and coming to the hospital, and yeah, it was a pretty trying time of my life, and that was when I gave my life to the Lord, and I just started walking with God back then, and so like I was in a wheelchair for a long time, and then had to learn how to walk again with a reconstructive surgery. So I was kind of there with the club, and my VP took over, as far as taking over the leadership for a while, and then eventually I did come back, um, but there was all that drama and then all that stuff that was happening with me, the rehab and all that, as far as because I couldn't work, I couldn't walk, it was just a lot going on. So I stepped away for a while, and eventually I was able to walk again, and I started coming around the club, and Henry Montoya had taken over. He was my VP. He was doing a good job. Um, but then he had kids. He started having kids, and it was hard for him to carry that sacrifice. Yeah, because when you don't have any kids and you're not married, I mean, it's the club is life, right, at that point. But eventually, life takes over, and it gets hard to carry the torch. And then so somebody else took over from him for a while, and I was still on the sidelines. I wasn't fully dedicated to coming back. I would just assist them a lot, and they relied on me a lot. But I wasn't really happy with the direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to come back, about 4 years ago, I think. And one of the things I said when I came back, I was like, look, life is different now for me. And I said, if I come back, we're going to have Bible study at the beginning of the meetings and prayer before the meeting. So get our mindset right, instead of all of this craziness. Right. So I wanted everybody's mindset to be kind of a godly mindset, and it seems to have helped. Put everybody in a calm state of mind, and everybody's friendly, with each
family
other.
oriented. Last time I checked you guys out,
really family. Unfortunately, there were some people that weren't on board with it, and so they had to leave. But this was the atmosphere that I wanted to have in the club, and we don't recruit a lot of people, and part of the reason is it's really important for the person to be that kind of person, like a very, very upstanding, friendly type of person. And then, of course, their car has to be like very, very, very nice.
Is that it? Are those the qualifications to get into your car? The car first, of course. It's got to meet your standards, and then the attitude keeps you there.
Yeah, well, it's both. You can't get into the club unless you have both.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, let's say your car is stock, it has to be like a new looking stock car, but with wheels and some kind of adjustable suspension. So, and of course you can have custom cars. We have custom cars in our club, but then also they have to come, and we really have to see what kind of person they are, because we used to let people in really quick, and they were on their good behavior, and then after a while you'd get to know who they really were, and it's like, okay, this guy's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, So you want to try to it's a little bit of a long process. You want to try to get to know the person as much as possible, and you want them to be that really really good good-hearted person type.
Okay, so when you took over the club again, did you take another break and then come back, or you've been there since now?
No, I've been here ever since. Yeah, so it, I'm in charge
You're
now.
responsible for the traditions, the sacrifices, and you are a
Right.
religious man. My question I'd like to know is, how do you keep your religion and then you lowride? You have a car club and you
Hmm.
run it, because there's a lot of sacrifice there.
Yeah.
I call it. I call my club. It's like a religion to me because it takes more than money and it takes more than time. It takes virtue, actually. And that's why I call it all the time. People get offended by it. And all I can answer back and say, hey, I'm a Catholic. Don't take it too extreme, right? But it's almost the same thing as a religion. Everything you have to dedicate to it, you have to believe in it. How do you balance them both off? Because if you're very religious, family comes first before anything. There's car shows on Sunday. There's cars, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
how do you balance it?
Well, everybody knows, even on my Instagram, God comes first.
Yeah.
God's first, then my family, then family,
Hmm.
and then the club.
Right.
So yeah, so everybody understands that's in the club, and they understand because most of the guys in the club they're family men too now, and they want their families to be first as well, right?
Hmm.
Back in the day when we were kids, the club was all about the club and only the club, right?
Right.
But now, like I said, so we have our meetings and it's after church, right? So then I'll come after church. We'll have our meetings. We only have a meeting once a month, and it's after church, and so I'll come and then I'll do a little Bible study and prayer, and then we start the meeting. If a show happens to fall on a weekend, on a Sunday, sometimes they're on Saturdays, but if it falls on a Sunday and we decide to go to that show, I mean, it's not a sin for us to miss church, so it's not that big. I mean, I go on Wednesday nights and I go to Thursday night Bible studies. So, I mean, it's like, I'm not going to go to hell for missing a Sunday service, but I don't make it a habit of going every Sunday to car shows like I used to. Church is first. So that's what everybody understands.
Man, Danny, I'll never forget. We're into religion right now, but I'll never forget the time I was hired on to be the editor of Lowrider, and I was excited. I went out and got myself because of the. I'll say it now. The pay was pretty good. I went and got a vet.
I remember
I
that.
want to change things. I get a chance to sit in the desk, dress up, and go to work because I worked hard my whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was out there cutting the grass, and I was excited. I was in another world, and all of a sudden, you pulled up with your wife in front of my house. I wasn't even there yet. Not. I don't even think I had started my first day yet, and you guys pulled up and you got off. Hey, Joe, congratulations on the job. I go, oh well, thanks. I didn't had no idea, about how big the job was, how important it was. Um, and you came over me and you put your hand on my shoulder and both of you prayed on me, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I took a lot in. I heard the prayers, I know the words and all that. But when you left, you could have driven by another hour later. You could have seen me standing out there, and that's when I realized, besides the work that was involved, the job title, the whole thing, it it never really got to my head or any of that, because I always remember that it was a chance for me to preach from the pulpit, and that's what you asked me, Joe. Please don't. And I saw how important that job was that day,
Mm-hmm.
and I did the best I could always, and I still to this day, and I remember it because of that time. I took the editor job very, very serious when you said a prayer over me, because yeah, there is a big reach in our community now. It's worldwide, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you have to lead by example. It's not about you. It's not about anything else. What matters is
Mm-hmm.
all of us, and to be neutral. And I think that's why I became blessed and lasted there that long, and I'm still here. And for your club to be around 45 years, that's the same reasons.
Yeah. We all know people that were here and gone early,
Oh, I know.
and
Too early.
life, it goes by fast.
Yeah.
It feels like just yesterday I was a little youngster, starting out, and so everything we have, I've had cars and they're all gone and junked, some of them, whatever. Um, so I used to have the mindset was, that car was a number one, and everything was up there on top, and I put the car on the pedestal and the club and everything. I love my club. It's everybody loves their clubs, or else you pretty much wouldn't be in it. But I've come to realize that everything is temporary in life except heaven and hell, and God comes first, right? So what are you going to do for eternity? That's what I always tell everybody. So when I'm representing out there in the lowrider community,
Yeah.
I use it as a ministry tool. And so I got a chance to pray with you, and hopefully it made an impact on you in your life.
Oh, it did, big time.
And I try to do the same thing with others out in the community, lowrider community.
You see me smiling a little bit. I mean, no disrespect, but a lot of people don't know your other little hobby that takes you back from all of that. And you'll take a bike at 150 miles an hour and lay it about just as low as your 61 to make a turn. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I was young, my dad got me a motorcycle, and it never left me as
Yeah.
far as the desire to ride, and I started going fast, and it was mostly a dirt bike. And when I got into my 20s, I bought a Ninja, I was riding in the streets. And then I started going to the racetrack. So
You couldn't go around the streets or the freeway fast enough, so racetrack's next.
it's not safely,
Yeah.
and I believe me, I would go fast in the streets. But speed becomes like a drug as well, it's adrenaline. So after my accident, I was able to walk, and then I came back to the club. I decided to start racing professionally, road racing. And in 2003, I won 2 championships. And in fact, Road Racing World built a motorcycle and did an article on me and their professional rider, and they had a big rig and a team, and I was just there with my little toolbox and my little truck and my little trailer, and they would come out to race me, and I was beating them, and they beat me, and then yeah, it was pretty fun.
So you don't do it too much anymore?
I had a Ducati last year. That was my last bike I sold. And that bike, I would do 170 miles an hour in a corner, dragging my knee on the ground, bike
It's a big
sliding.
difference from a 61 rag.
Yeah, so I have
Even with shocks in the front.
Right, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr.
Yeah,
Hyde, is I have
yeah.
2 personalities. I love to cruise and go slow, and
But it takes you away though, huh?
It does.
That's your way to get away from
the
everything.
adrenaline pump on that. It's hard to explain. When you're going, like I said, I was going 170 miles an hour, and your knees on the ground, and your head is 2 feet off the ground, and you're seeing the asphalt go by, and you're sliding.
Yeah.
At any time, this thing could spit you off at 170 miles an hour. It's an adrenaline rush. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very expensive. I spent a lot of money on that. It's more expensive than low riding, if
Yeah.
you would imagine. I mean, you could spend millions on racing in different categories. So unfortunately, I can only do it for a little while. And I achieved a goal, winning 2 championships. I got my name in a motorcycle racing magazine. It was pretty cool. But yeah, now I'm pretty much dedicated to the low riding, but God first.
We've had you on Legends of Low Riding. That honor came to you because of who you are and what you've done and where the club's at today. Do you have advice for everybody else that's here? Because you start a car club, they don't last 5 months, let alone 5 years, and they have their roller coasters. How do you maintain something like, because you have your ups and downs? The larger, like you just said right now, the larger
Yeah.
your your um, your roll call list is, the more problems you have. And you guys only have one chapter,
Only one chapter.
but you could have a bunch of them.
We have been offered all over Japan, Northern Cal, Southern Cal, back east. It's
What is
it
your
didn't.
advice to everybody? How does this whole thing work? So you can, what they all can go one day and look back at pictures that are stuck together, and then see, wow, and appreciate it. How do you get to that point?
So this is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun,
Yes,
okay?
that's what I say.
It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun,
Right.
then you're doing it wrong,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah.
Something's wrong. If you're not having a good time, then you need to step back and say, okay, this maybe something's wrong. I'm doing it wrong. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to be excited to go hang out with the guys, and take your car out or go to a show. And if you're not having a good time or excited about doing those things, then you need to step back. You have the wrong mindset. Um, and like I said, a lot of people put it first, but really family should be first, right?
Right.
And when you prioritize your family, and then you include your family in it, and then they feel less part of it, then it becomes more fun. And the people in your club that are also doing that, and their families are coming together, so all their families and your family, it becomes like one big family. And then you get together, and it's more like a reunion than just a car club type deal.
You mentioning it's a hobby. I always say it's a hobby. Oh, it's a culture. You can't say that. It is part of the culture is because it's a hobby. But the difference between a 32 coupe or a hot rod, a Vet, Lambo, a Ducati, and a classic lowrider. They all have different looks, of course, and they all have different rides. Besides the paint jobs and the attractions lowriders get, there's a certain ride when you get inside the cockpit, or even of a 61 right now, and look at that dash all the way across. You sit in there comfortable, and you're going to turn on something that is in the era of 1960, which is, wow, you can go all the way back to 65 years ago if you want. You're going to look over that hood and see all the designs on that hood that you don't even see today. But you fire up an Aura back then, and then you kick it in gear, and it doesn't ride the same, of course. You enhance them performance-wise and all that, but you're on 520s now. The family jumps in, and you go for that ride, Danny. If it's back up in the driveway, out of the garage onto the boulevard, and there you go. Because everywhere in America, there's a boulevard. If you've got a lowrider, wherever you put that thing in drive and you take off, that's your boulevard.
Yeah.
There's a difference when people say, why are you into this whole thing so much? Why did you invest in all this? At the end of the day, it's not to have the baddest paint job or to have the best interior or to come up with something no one's ever done or have the baddest full custom. It's always going to be about, and I had also here the other day from Artistics, looking over that hood and that ride you give with the right music and the right area, and it just
brings you back.
You hear the 520s going zzz. They're getting killed out there with a weight, right? But that thing, you can lower your radio, but it's all in the ride.
Yeah, it's nostalgic.
Yep.
So when I was a kid, my dad, I was like 11 years old, 12 years old. My dad had a purple 61 hardtop Impala, and it was my mom's daily driver. We'd go grocery shopping and everything. And we have pictures of it. She's sitting on the hood, and I'm in there on the steering wheel. So when you grow up, you remember those things. And I was able to get my own car, and the Caravan, and everybody rolling together, and everybody looking, in the Caravan, and you're looking good, and you're looking good, right? And it's just the feeling that you get. You're like in a parade, right? And everybody's waving. You get on the freeway, and you stop in traffic. It's an incredible feeling to be in that car. you put the music on that I had in when I was in high school, and man, my
Still
ladies
listen to
next
the
to
same
me, the
music
same
now, right?
music, yeah, you know, old school, you know, R&B, you know, and then my ladies sitting next to me, and you're feeling young again. You know, it takes you back. Um, so yeah, it's definitely all tied up into that feeling. Um, hot riding, I'm sure they do the same thing. I've talked to hot riders and they do the same
Yeah.
thing, and but hot riders, I've noticed a lot of hot riding they've kind of, the bridge between hot riding and low riding is kind of been blurred a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of low riding are taking cues and hot riders are taking cues of low riders and stuff, you know. And so when we go to a hot rod show, there's a little bit of more of us have a little camaraderie with them, you know, because we've kind of blended a little bit our styles, and so then we get to talk to them about, and they would tell me, "Oh, I had a car like that when I was
Yeah.
young. My dad had a car like that," and we become more social with the hot rod community because now we're blending a little bit more with them, and they get to see that. Unfortunately, low riding has always taken that. Well, for many years, it's taken that we're a bunch of gangbangers and no good
Yeah.
hoodlums. You know,
Yeah.
they're starting to realize that's really not the case. I mean, we can't, the amount of money that goes into these lowriders, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Uh, and I mean, paint jobs costing 30, 40, 50 grand. You know, it's like, who's going to act like a fool
Mm-hmm.
if you got a car that you can have, if you damage that paint, you're going to be in paint prison for 10 years, spending another 30, 40, 50 grand. You know, it's like, nobody wants to go through that again.
I don't think I think everybody realizes it now that the stereotype, most of it's gone away. It's still it'll always be there for some people
Mm-hmm.
because they're either gonna be jealous or they're racist, if you want to call it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just too bad. They're the ones. We're not the ones that are different. They are. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's a love for American cars.
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
can't we all appreciate each other? You know, the Roadster show, you would mingle around with cops that just walk by and just look at you in the first years when we were there,
You're right.
and they didn't accept it. We would take our mild cars before we took any velvet or multicolors just to get along with all their exhibitors. And it took 2, 3, 4 years, and then we got to know them by their names and had a few beers together, and it was accepted, and you would bridge that gap somewhat.
Yeah.
But it's not fair when you own a company and you have CNC machines and you build a $3 million hot rod.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then, you know, for
I've
us, you
known
just
guys
said
that
it's
been,
150,000 to build a car. Well, that's like $1.5 million for them.
yeah,
That's easy for
I've
them.
known a guy that built the Riddler of the Year, you
Yeah.
know, car, and then
Look where they're at.
and actually most of those guys don't build their cars.
No.
They have builders build their cars, and then they polish them up at the show. And then,
It could be said there's no hobby there.
right.
Yeah.
So I've seen them. Those guys never get dirty, and they have multi-million-dollar homes. They come all clean, and they have a crew clean their car and set it up, and they go get their trophy. But they really never turned a wrench. Yeah, and I for a while there I was seeing built not bought kind of thing here, and a
Yeah,
low riding
yeah.
thing was kind of thing. Man, if somebody's got enough money to buy a car that's done, let them enjoy the car and just go through it, you know. Because it's a headache to build a car. I mean, yeah, you learn everything about that car and you know it, and everybody knows every single flaw in their car when it's done. But and it might give you a little bit more love.
Got to
But
pray for more dependable shops out there is what we all need.
yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough trying to get shops that are that'll do what they say they'll do. There's a lot of scandalous people that'll
Yeah.
say they promise you the moon and stars, and you take something to them, and then they want to blame you for why they didn't finish the job like they're supposed to, right? It's
I
all
like
your
what
fault.
you go to Daniel's Creations. I like the way he sets all the parts. They're on racks and everything, and pretty much the cars go in and go out. There's some nice jobs that are
Yeah.
done there.
Yeah, he doesn't like taking cars in unless he really has the time. And he has like ABCD, you know, kind of spaces and racks for those ABCDs, and it's kind of a factory when you take a car in there.
And I think it's a lot smoother.
Yeah, it's very
The
smooth
production
the way he
assembly
produces.
line.
Right.
Hey, tell me what you think, because I don't know. I search for the answers. I got my own questions within myself. The lowriding culture today, the whole industry, more or less, everything that you see that's good and bad out there. You're a leader of your car club. You run your car club a certain way. Um, you know all its history. I mean, you're part of that history. When you see things, the bad that's going on out there today with the little, I hate the jealousy and those that want the spotlight all the time, don't even own cars and all that stuff. Um, when you see all of that and you run your car club a certain way, and then you look at low riding and you try to be neutral with everything that's going on out there, how would you police the whole situation from your perspective, sitting back the way you run your club? No, we can't do this. No, we couldn't do that. No, you should appreciate this. No, it's because of that. Because you're correcting your car club members as you go on. If you don't stay on them, they're going to change. And one of them changes, he's going to pull in a few more. And now you got more problems. When you look at the whole picture of what's going on today, um, can you solve some of it, you think? What will be your advice to everybody out there
Well,
to check themselves?
to be self-absorbed is human nature,
Yeah.
so the whole deal is like I said, we're very particular
Mm-hmm.
on who we let in. Not to say that you're not going to be somewhat self-absorbed, because when you build a car, every car that's built is a reflection of the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't build it yourself, you're putting input. I want this color. I want this interior. I want these wheels. I want this type of hydraulics. I want a certain way, right? I want a certain look. So everybody's kind of putting a little bit of themselves into each car. But um, to try to steer a certain member in a certain way, um, it kind of has to be when they come into the club, the understanding these are the type of cars we have, and this is the way we build it, and these are the rules, and here are the rules, and you agree to those rules. I'm not afraid to say, hey, to somebody, it's not working out. You know, some clubs want to be big no matter what, and to me, it's not that important to have a whole bunch of people. It's nice to have a lot of people,
Yeah.
um, but it's more important to have unity and unity in thought, um, than to have a lot of people, because in the end of the day, I don't need the headache. It's life is there's enough headache in life. There's enough trials and stuff in life every day that you have to deal with, than to put up with something that's supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah.
And supposed to be a hobby and supposed to be able to enjoy and to go look forward to doing. And yeah, so and I just look at it like, if if I don't if we're not seeing eye to eye, then I have no problem with moving on.
That's yeah, that's I excuse the word asshole, but you have to almost be one sometimes, or a dictator, to keep it going alive.
Yeah.
You have to. Somebody has to do it. At the end of the day, I think everybody appreciates it because they understand the job. Where's Style Car Club going from here? You're still young.
Stock Car Club, we're just going to continue our legacy for the type of low riding image that we put out.
You see it going another 5-10 years easy?
To be honest, as long as I'm able to be breathe, I think,
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
long as it's going in the way that it goes, God willing, that's the direction that we're going to be going in.
You see any officers or members, any relatives, anybody besides your dad and all that can follow your footsteps?
Yeah. So we have like Eric Lozano is our VP now. He's got the Pandemic 57, that's
Yeah.
kind of a pink one. He's our VP now, and Eric's very he's wise in his thinking, and so I depend on him sometimes. We'll discuss things and how things should go, and I don't like just jumping into things. I like we try to use as wisdom for our direction, you know, and that's to me instead of if you jump into things emotionally, you're gonna make mistakes. So I try to
You don't have a
stand
problem then giving up those keys, handing them off
in.
for somebody else to run it.
If I see the wisdom and then I see that they have the same passion, you know, I really don't have a problem with that. But yeah, it has to be somebody that has the same vision, basically.
Style Car Club. I've seen you guys in caravans before, and I followed you from way back in the lineup. You know, I see your lineups at the show. You guys are only as good as your last show, and I see how you go to certain shows all the time, and you represent. And you guys got a good going nature, man. And I think you're a mentor for all of us out there. That could have happened in Legends too. You could have had the mentorship. You know a lot of people out there. You know a lot of club leaders, a lot of shops, Danny, and it's a great thing.
Yeah, yeah,
That day you came to me and put your hand on me and said prayer over. I mean, I almost owe you that back in return, but you've handled yourself like that your pretty much whole life. So you represent not only style, but all of lowriding. That's why you're here today.
yeah. I never claim to be perfect. Um, Nobody's perfect.
No.
I've made mistakes, but you know, I try to learn from my mistakes and move forward. Um, but yeah, it's a. I look at other clubs as not just like rivals or anything, but they're my friends.
Yeah.
And they're just friends that we haven't seen for a while. And I go when we go to shows, it's fun to see these people and acknowledge them and hang out with them and talk to them, you know, and what have they been up to. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of good people in the lowrider movement, um, and one of the reasons why I used to have well, I still do. It's on YouTube, The Art of Lowriding, because back until 2012, I was looking around and there was a lot of people at shows, but I was hearing a lot of negative stuff, and I was like, man, these are really good people, family people, fun people to be around, and they're building some amazing cars, and we're not being represented because I used to watch Speed TV and all these different channels, and they would have, and it's 100% hot rod stuff, and they're being represented in a positive light, but we were never. So I tried to do that. I started this show called The Art of Lowriding, and we made a bunch of episodes. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I tried to bring that to light, and I spent a bunch of money, and I was trying to get it to networks and stuff like that. And it went up, it went in a few times. People took it in the lower level, and when it would go up to the higher levels, that you get shot down because they would say nobody wants to see lowriders. And I know that the kind of thinking they have is because I went to Route 66 in San Bernardino before there was a lot of lowriders there, and literally had the promoter come up to me and ask me how I got my car in there, that nobody wanted to see it. But they weren't going to make a fuss. They had the police there. They weren't going to make a fuss because they didn't want it to look bad. So they asked me to stay there parked in that spot for the rest of the day. So I know the thinking of the hot rodders, you know.
Yeah, that brings back a lot of old memories.
Right.
RG Canning's the same way.
Right. So they still kind of have that mindset, but you know, when you were in lowrider, you guys started the role models, which gave an insight more of who we are. But that torch really hasn't been continued. There's really no mainstream media show of it. There's a deal of me when at the Lowrider Super Show with Hugh Hauser that comes up every once in a while on PBS.
Yep.
And it's funny because it'll come up and it'll make the rounds and people will start tagging me on it, you know, and my phone is going crazy because, hey, that's you,
A lot of good things
at work. And that was a positive deal because I was able to talk to Hugh Hauser and explain to him about hydraulics and people looking at it. But there's not enough of that in mainstream media, in my opinion, for the lawyer. I think if there was more of that,
and there's so much
to
room
outweigh.
For it.
It needs to be out there to outweigh the negativity of the lowriding community, because There's a lot of good people in low riding.
Oh, there are.
I'm not going to say that there's
They're all quiet.
that there's nobody out there that's not, that's a troublemaker. There are those, but I would say 99% of the guys out there are great people, craftsmen, car builders, visionaries, and but it's just mainstream media. We just don't get the love and respect, and it's kind of a shame, in my opinion.
I agree with you there. Who are your special thanks to people? Your shout outs?
Well, really, my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My dad taught me everything I know about low riding. I started putting hydraulics in cars when I was 14 years old, and he taught me how to do stuff with my hands and work with my hands. So when he helped me be the guy that I am today. And he made a lot of mistakes. I got to see him make mistakes, and then even me following God, he gave his life to the Lord after my parents got divorced, and I got to see his life change, and it helped me change who I am. So, yeah, really, my dad is like the biggest influence, I would say.
How does anybody get a hold of you? Do you have social handles for the Style Car Club?
Yeah, so it's Style61 on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then yeah, we have our low riding page on Facebook, but also our low riding page, the YouTube channel. But yeah,
Well, there you go, everybody, as we come to a close with the show. Elegance. You know, I said that before. Flair and grace, leadership, honor.
Thank you.
With legends, you could have been mentorship, and you still are.
Oh, there's always time.
Yep. There you go, everybody. Danny Ayala, president of the Style Car Club. Danny, thanks for being here, man. Got to get you back on here, man, because you always have great things to say.
Thank you.
I mean, you're in studio today, but who knows, maybe a couple weeks from now, you'll be saying the same thing out there at a car show near you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of people like him that we're all here. All right, Danny, there we go. So there comes that end to this episode with the Style Car Club. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll catch you at the next.